What is going on, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the second mixtape by Chicago rap artist Chief Keef. Basically, this project came out in early 2012 and it's called Back from the Dead. Now, this is kind of a revolutionary album. This is one that kind of was responsible for helping to kick off like the drill subgenre, which I think was a pretty important subgenre. And Chief Keef was kind of, in my opinion, seen as one of the more kind of revolutionary artists out of the 2010s. I feel like between like XXX Temptation, not sure if that's how you say his name, but that XXX Temptation dude, Juice World, Chief Keef, Soulja Boy, still somewhat, some of those type folks. There's other ones I can't remember, but just some of the various ones, Drake especially, some of those ones that came out of the 2010s. But Chief Keef was really just like a teenager who was barely able to drive when he was putting out these projects. But he got a particular hit single that was really kind of a big drill song, which was I Don't Like. And it just, this album or this mixtape reminds me of like a kind of milder version of Waka Flocka Flame's hit album Flockavelli. It's in that same department where it does kind of have that drill sound, and it was just kind of advancing forth that kind of concept. Now, there's not an overabundance of songs on this project that really have that drill sound, but I definitely saw this as like a fusion of like trap music, early 2010s trap music with like some horrorcore and then a little bit of drill thrown in on top of that. It does a particularly good job with this compact amount of songs on here to really establish itself. And the fact that Chief Keef was not even a legal adult yet, being able to put out songs of this quality really speaks volume. I really feel like he had a lot going. The thing about this mixtape, it won some accolades. Dat Piff, which is a premier mixtape website, saw this as like the 11th best mixtape out of 2012, which really says something considering some of the ones that came out, like Meek Mill's Dream Chasers 2 and Rick Ross's Rich Forever and some of those. I mean, 2012 was a pretty big year for mixtapes, so to be pretty much top 10 out of that being a banner year for rap music in that regard is pretty good. So that's definitely something. This is a notable project, and it just had a lot of accolades that kind of went along with it. I definitely see this as a more revolutionary project, and I just didn't realize the importance of it back in the day. I at least knew mild amounts about Chief Keef, a couple of his songs here and there. I do remember I Don't Like. I didn't used to like that song, but the more I listen to it, I do see the importance of it and how kind of revolutionary it was, because drill music, I mean, apart from Waka Flocka Flame and Chief Keef, would later spawn folks like Pop Smoke and the 5E04, and I think it's either 5E04 or 5E04. I'm not really sure how to say his name, but those type folks that would do it later in like the late 2010s and early 2020s. So it's just kind of good to be able to get that. I mean, this album is not heavy on the drill, and I'm going to have to see further projects by Chief Keef to see it, but I do feel like there are some songs on here that definitely have like a good shape of like 2010s trap and horrorcore that really has like some real grim and kind of horrifying kind of feels towards it. And this, just by the mixtape title and the kind of album cover and that type of stuff, really showcases that it is kind of zombie like and just horror like. So I mean, I didn't really picture Chief Keef as doing horrorcore, but it is an interesting valve to kind of get some of this shrill kind of horrifying type stuff. But yeah, there were four singles off this mixtape, which is pretty good. I mean, four singles off a free project really showcases something, and that's pretty good to kind of get these. I mean, the only real song that charted was just I Don't Like, but there were at least three other hit songs that at least got some degree of popularity and might have had music videos. So I'm going to talk about some of these. Like I Don't Know Dem is the first single, and this one's definitely like a really glitzy and triumphant kind of night venue song. It's interesting to kind of get this one. This has a lot of bravado towards it. It reminds me of like a typical Atlanta type song from like trap sounding stuff, like the sort of stuff Future or YC would do, or someone like that, or Gucci Mane even, or just someone like OJ the Juice Man, those type people out of like the Atlanta sound back in 2011. It's very hazy, but it's also kind of dusky sounding. It's a very brassy kind of song. It's definitely got a very triumphant kind of vibe about it, but I do see it as like a pretty standard night at like a night venue. It's just kind of like the more entry kind of one. It's just kind of the more entry kind of one, where it's just kind of a typical night, just something I would play 8:30, 9:30 p.m., where maybe you're not quite as loudly getting turned up, but it's definitely a good one to kick things off. Just has a real kind of triumphant and kind of exuberant energy about it. It has like a nice pace and kind of infectious feel towards it. So I definitely like that one. It's just a real kind of glitzy one. The second single, the second single is one of the larger rap songs out of 2012. This is definitely one that had a lot of notoriety and is pretty ubiquitous out of that year. Was I Don't Like. And this one is kind of, it has like a pretty plodding beat. It just really feels like to me like a mid-grade club bop. It just has like that sparkling kind of piano keys in there, but this has like the same loop that kind of goes by. It's a pretty basic song. I mean, I used to not like this song because the simplistic kind of beat, but it is kind of like a meme song and definitely like one of the more important songs out of 2010s in rap music. It's a drill song, but it just doesn't quite feel as noisy as usual drill. I think it's kind of noisy, but it's just probably, I would rank in terms of like the raucousness and sheer kind of craziness that this song gets to, probably about like a 6 or a 5.75, 6.5 out of 10 in terms of sheer craziness, at least in terms of drill music. I mean, this was kind of one that just kicked it off. And I don't know if Chief Keef realized that this song was going to be as large of a hit, but it does have this is definitely a noisemaker, and it's just a classic. If you're looking for like a vintage 2010s rap type song, this is definitely one to dig up. It's about 11 years old now. This is kind of the concept, but it's just kind of vintage rap music at this stage. And it's strange saying that, but it is. And Every Day was the third single. Every Day is just kind of a blurry and flashy nightclub kind of song. I definitely like the pace of it, but it just is kind of dramatic in there. It's kind of similar to I Don't Like in terms of its dramaticness. Definitely kind of more of like a kind of bravado filled kind of song in terms of like how that kind of goes. Some of these really do have some bravado about them. They just feel a lot more triumphant and kind of more stepping out and just like a more kind of peacocking and kind of more flamboyant sense. Not flamboyant where it's like, wearing abstract colors like when you think of Andre 3000 or someone like that, but just kind of a lot more triumphant of sounding, just in terms of a little bit more kind of arrogance that kind of goes along with that. I just like the concept, but some of these are just really blurry, and I feel like Every Day is a good follow up to I Don't Like as far as being like a 1-2 punch. But then all three of the singles, I Don't Know Them, I Don't Like, and Every Day, are all great free songs that kind of have like the valve as far as being just like flashy night songs as far as trying to do that. So, but this song is not really drill. It's just kind of like a glitzy kind of club song, but I do think it is a good follow up to I Don't Like, and just in terms of not dropping the ball. Monster is the fourth single, and this one's kind of more of a horrorcore one. This Monster is the fourth single, and this one's kind of a more horrorcore like song, very dusky and paranoid. It's a very doomed sounding kind of song. I definitely feel like the concept behind it, even right down to the chorus, it just kind of feels more ostracized and more abstract than some of these other ones. I definitely like the concept about it. It's just a real nice kind of decent club bop, but just kind of in a more paranoid sense, and just a little bit more kind of evening and kind of, yeah, basically dusky, and just kind of more night oriented, and just more, maybe more of an outdoor sense. Doesn't have to be at a nightclub, but it can be. It's just either way. It's just kind of for the more evening kind of sounds as far as that kind of goes. I just like the concept of how kind of paranoid and doomed sounding that this song kind of is. Just really like the concept. It's kind of like a good horrorcore song. It's a good surprise that Chief Keef was pulling off some of these horrorcore songs. That's pretty good. So out of 12 songs on here, there were 8 that I recommend. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend those 8 songs. They would be I Don't Know Them, Every Day, Monster, I Don't Like, Sosa, 300, Winnin', and My Niggas. So I feel like another song that has a lot of credibility that's pretty similar to the singles, and I want to say that Chief Keef actually dropped like the original version of this song. I don't know what project that's on. I guess if he only has one other project, maybe 300 was on his original mixtape Bang, but I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to check that one out. But the remix is basically, it feels like a single. It just has a real vanilla nightclub kind of feel towards it, very triumphant, like I Don't Like, or very triumphant, like I Don't Know Them, and Every Day, kind of in that context. But I kind of feel like this one's just a lot more imperial like. Yeah, but 300 is a very vanilla kind of club song. It's triumphant and imperial like, and Soulja Boy suits this song pretty well. But this has like more kind of lightly brassy, but just kind of something that feels very similar to I Don't Know Them. Just kind of that similar production to that. It's another kind of stock nightclub song in that sort of sense. This one's probably the more typical one. I feel like 300, this is like the most basic song on here in terms of that, but I feel like I Don't Know Them, Every Day and 300 are three great night venue songs that are free music, just in that context of just kind of typical kind of 2010s, but kind of more crunchy and recreational stepping out kind of songs. Another song that's triumphant like those songs, but just kind of a more mellow version of that, is Winnin'. This is another mellow nightclub bop, has a lot of bravado like some of those other ones I listed, but it's very casual. This one's probably the most basic, where 300 was definitely a vanilla, just standard regular night out, but this one feels like a more mellow kind of night, just kind of typical, where if 300 was kind of a Monday or Thursday kind of song, this would kind of be more of like a Tuesday or Wednesday one. It's the same kind of vibe as far as that kind of goes, but these are just stock kind of night venue songs as far as that kind of goes. So that's just another one. Sosa's a little bit more ramped up. I definitely like the kind of glittery and glitzy pace of Sosa. This is definitely a litty, smoke, and night venue song. It's really kind of a bleary kind of song, and it's a very much head pound of a song, where I do like getting some of these smoke session songs as far as being able to say when you're smoking in the club and you're not just wanting a basic and vanilla kind of night. This is just one, or maybe you've had a few blunts, something like that, just really smoking up a bit and just kind of feeling it and just kind of pulsating and that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. This is a lot more of a litty song, probably one of the flashiest songs on here. I mean, this song and Every Day are some real nice ones for that sort of concept. And then another real hit song is My Niggas. This one's a really kind of flashy and horrorcore song. It's kind of horrorcore mixed with like some club music. So this is the sort of stuff that like Brother Lynch hung would. This is the sort of stuff that Brother Lynch hung would do, just without all the graphic kind of like horrorcore sounding stuff. But it just, in terms of the production, it's horrorcore. I like the first verse that Chief Keef does, just because that's more horrorcore sounding, just with its kind of flittering and kind of more like vampiric kind of sound as far as that kind of goes. And then the second verse, it kind of switches into like this kind of distorted kind of flashiness, but it still kind of has some of that horrorcore vibe in there. The other cat does a pretty good job. I think his name is SD or something like that, Stack D. So yeah, it's just a real flashy, and this one's really a nightmare of a song. I feel like this one's pretty similar to Monster in terms of some of that shrill kind of vibe about it. So I definitely like this one. It is a social song. I do feel like this is another nightclub song. It's very glaring, but I do like the social vibe about it. This has some nice flashiness as far as that kind of goes. That's just kind of the concept about these 8 out of 12 songs, me liking 2/3 of the project. To talk about some of the ones I didn't enjoy, though. Talk about some of these ones I didn't enjoy. Like, I didn't really like the ad-libbing and True Religion Fiend. Like True Religion Fiend just kind of had some awkward ad-libbing in there that kind of detracted from the song. That could have been a decent one if it had less messiness towards it. And I kind of felt like Designer was kind of an awkward gimmick song, where I would have liked this song if they wouldn't have just kept saying Designer. So if they wouldn't have kept saying Designer so much and made it less of a gimmick song. Like, there's just certain songs on here that kind of have like some gimmick towards them, and sometimes they work, but sometimes they don't. But Designer is one of the ones that didn't. I did like the kind of flashy and kind of blurry kind of beat on there, but it just wasn't enough to save it. And then Trust None was just kind of another messy song. That Trust None had too much auto-tune on the song. This was just kind of a bad version of an auto-tune song to kind of have that. And normally I don't bash auto-tune, but I just didn't like the mixture of how that one turned out. It was just kind of a mess of a song, and just the alignment and synchronization just didn't add up quite well enough. And then Save That Shit was kind of an oddball and awkward, one of the more awkward songs on this project, just because it was Chief Keef trying to cross over into like pop rap territory, which is not so much I have a problem with Chief Keef trying to do that, but just the way that this song turned out and trying to see him do that just really was not a clean enough version of trying to get that. I mean, I like the concept of at least being able to see him on like something chart heavy, but this early in his career, it just kind of felt, I think he needed more songs like I Don't Like and I Don't Know Them and some of them. I think really just, I mean, him being able to have that dichotomy would have been really good, but he just sounded really out of place on that song, Save That Shit. Just really didn't connect quite as well as I probably would have thought it needed to. But I mean, if you're looking for something, this is probably the song that has the most crossover appeal, is Save That Shit. But it's just kind of a more awkward type song for that sort of mixture. It just really didn't really suit him, at least in terms of normally being able to do it, but maybe he pulls it off on later albums. But so that about takes care of it. In terms of what I'm going to score this mixtape, me liking 8 songs out of 12, I'm going to go ahead and give this mixtape like I'm going to give this mixtape like an 8.75 out of 10. That's pretty damn good. I mean, 2/3 of the project. I'm upping the score some just because this is a free project. 4 singles, that's really good. There's 2/3 of the projects. That's basically no matter what, it would get at least a 7 out of 10. But I'm just upping the score more because there's really only 4 songs out of 12 I didn't enjoy. And the fact that this music doesn't have any cost towards it really indicates that. So it's a good mixture of horrorcore, good mixture of trap music, 2010s trap music, early 2010s trap music, and it's also a good mixture of a little bit of drill if you look hard enough. There's not much drill, but it's at least the initial kind of foundation stages of kind of getting that pumped out. So Chief Keef did a lot of stuff here, and the fact that he was 16, just turned 16, that type of stuff contributes to it pretty well also. So it's a good mixture. In terms of the social score, I'm going to give the social score like a 9.5 out of 10 because I feel like 4 singles, free music, the fact that Chief Keef was 16 pumping out music this good and kind of revolutionizing things with drill was pretty good to be able to do that. So I think this is definitely a good valve as far as that kind of goes. Just lots of good songs on here for stepping out. And the fact that you don't have to pay anything to get this stuff really contributes to that. And this is just his second project. So there's just 4 singles, good amounts of assortments. The only real reason I didn't give this social score a 10 is just because there's not really more drill. I feel like he needed at least another song like I Don't Like. But apart from that, it's pretty bell of the ball in terms of quality as to what there is to be able to scoop up here. In terms of the future, like I don't know what Chief Keef's been up to that much. I want to say he's dropped a few projects here and there, but I don't really know. He used to really drop mixtapes like crazy, and he's definitely big on the underground scene. So we'll have to see some more about these, but this is definitely a pretty valiant project to go and fuck with in terms of like what there is in terms of revolutionary 2010s rap music.